Hey, this is Gabe. I'm one of the worker owners at Spitefield Clothing Cooperative. When the Supreme Court had the leak indicating that they were going to overturn Roe versus Wade, we had started to put a project into motion to basically talk to women about their experiences. We wanted to, because we're three dudes. We're three dudes that run a business, but we want to hear and know and learn and be better at being husbands and fathers and, you know, humans. So we've been working on this for a little bit. We have one interview under our belt on video and a couple in print that'll be coming out in a little zine that we're doing. Um, that'll be released actually very shortly as well. But today is different, right? Because it's not the, you know, leak. It's not the hint that this is going to happen. It's the reality. You wake up in the morning and, suddenly a right that has been there for women for half a century, like literally my entire life, my whole life, is just gone, just poofed, right? And there's no way to express how wrong that feels, that we should, in a country of freedom, have more rights instead of less rights day by day. And then in the same breath, the day before they announced that, you know, you can open carry out of your home, that's your right. It's a weird place to be. Uh, for our cooperative, we have a lot of strong opinions about a lot of different things because that's who we are. That's what we've always strived to be. That's, the people we were raised to be. As somebody who used to be a Christian, I was raised to question everything. And questioning everything led me to seeing that what happens in the world has nothing to do with what was delineated in that particular holy book. So that's enough for me. It's a sad day for our country. I don't know that we'll recover, but it's still important that we hear. It's still important that we listen. So I'm presenting for everybody one more voice to add that says this decision is wrong. I'm just going to leave it go. Um, Thank you for watching. Please share it with other people so that they can hear it too. Because I think right now we all need to hear that we're not insane. This is wrong. Today is wrong, and what's happening is wrong. All right. Well, Heather, thank you for being here with us today. So, the purpose of these conversations is to just kind of talk about women and their stories when it comes to abortion and like really important health decisions that, lawmakers and the Supreme Court and all sorts of people really just want to strip away. So, tell us a little bit about, yourself and like your story and, why you feel it's important to share.
Thanks. So it's nice to be here. My name is Heather Trice. I currently reside in Chicago, Illinois. The story that I'm about to tell starts in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma to be exact, and then continues on in Houston, Texas, where I lived out the remainder of my pregnancy. So when I got pregnant, I had a lot of complications, a lot of complications. And I was on bed rest for 7 months of my pregnancy. It was a terrible experience. Of course, the result brought me great joy. I wouldn't trade my child for anything in the world. However, I did not ever want to be pregnant again. because it was such a traumatic experience. And for the fact that I didn't want my son to grow up without a mother because of something that happened during a complication with a second pregnancy. Um, so my first doctor was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I asked him if, when we did the cesarean, if we could also do a tubal ligation, to which he responded no, because this was my first child. And what happens if my husband later on decides that he wants to have kids, and was completely disregarding of how I felt about it, and the fact that my current pregnancy had extreme health risks that could involve death. Um, During my pregnancy, I ended up having to move to Houston to be with my family so that they could help me while I was on bed rest throughout the remainder of my pregnancy. At that point, I had seen 3 other doctors, um, who I also asked to give me a tubal ligation during the birthing process, and every single one of them responded with no. It was all about what happens if my future husband decides if he wants kids. I may change my mind later on. This can be very permanent, not always temporary. And they disregarded my emotions. They said I was pregnant and hormonal and shouldn't be making these kinds of decisions at this time, regardless of the fact that I didn't want to go through another procedure after my cesarean, because recovery from a tubal ligation is extreme. I mean, it puts you out for quite a while. So that's basically my story in a nutshell. I know several other women who had to have at least 3 kids in Oklahoma before they were allowed to have a tubal ligation. I also know of several women in Oklahoma and in Texas that have problems getting IUDs because it's so difficult to get pregnant while on them. So it just really feels like, not in all states, but a good portion of the United States doesn't really care about women's wishes in whether or not they want to be pregnant or not.
So when a doctor who is already experienced, how difficult your pregnancy was, negated how you felt about what you wanted to do, like your medical choices, like what kind of emotions did that bring up in you?
Anger. I was mad. I was upset. I was very adamant about the fact that I never wanted to be pregnant again, and none of them would listen to me. And it wasn't like I didn't try to doctor shop to find somebody, because I did, and all of them refused me.
Um, it's obviously like this intense personal choice where you had like a very serious complication, you had made a very informed decision. How do you feel like the law or doctors should be forced to respond to your personal requests when it comes to medical procedures happening on your body?
Well, I feel like there should be laws in place to protect women and their health. I mean, if I still resided in the state of Texas and were to get pregnant again and had serious health complications, if I found out after 6 weeks of being pregnant, I wouldn't be able to terminate. And in the state of Oklahoma, there's absolutely no exception whatsoever to terminating a pregnancy. And it's disgusting. As far as the doctors refusing my wishes, that it's just so very archaic to think that I should depend on what a man who isn't even in my life decides what they want to do with my body. It's infuriating.
It seems bizarre to hinge a decision on a potential future relationship. Like, I guess at what point at what point do you think it would be appropriate for a doctor to say to someone, I can't do this?
I don't think there is. If a woman never wants to have kids, why does a future relationship determine whether or not you can have children or not? Like it should never be a man's decision to begin with. Like, why should a man decide for me that I'm going to be barefoot and pregnant my whole life?
Right.
And the same goes for the women that have struggled getting IUDs, unless they're in a monogamous relationship or married, is what they were told about getting an IUD. So it's, in my mind, okay for a man to go out and have a sexually active life, but it's not okay for a single woman to do the same thing.
Right. So fast forwarding to now, so there's this potential for Roe versus Wade to be overturned by the Supreme Court. We all saw that in the leak, and like honest to God, the whistleblower that leaked that is a hero in my opinion.
Yes.
Like, because it gave everybody the heads up to be prepared for this sort of thing. So when you heard that news, how did you respond? Like, what was your emotional and mental response to that?
I cried because I don't have any daughters, but I have nieces and they live in Texas and they have no choice but to live in Texas. My sister's first child's father, by law, she can't leave the state of Texas without his permission. So if something were to happen to them, if they were raped, if it was incest, it would not matter. And I have several friends in the state of Oklahoma who feel the same way. And I know of people who are trying to say that just because Roe v. Wade might be overturned doesn't mean that you can't go somewhere to have an abortion. Well, in Texas, if you do, you can be ratted out by somebody for going out of state. You can't even go out of state. So the only choice would be to completely uproot your life and move. And why should I have to leave my home to live somewhere where my health care is important to the state that I live in? A lot of people don't have the resources to do that. It was just so infuriating. And I marched in a Roe v. Wade march here in Chicago, and it was so powerful and so empowering. And there were men there too, and that was just absolutely amazing. But the fact that we have to march, the fact that it's 2022 when this is even a conversation, it blows my mind that these states are so backwards in their thinking. And the fact that the Supreme Court, who all of the nominees or all of the current judges, when they were nominees, were asked about Roe v. Wade, and they straight up said that they would never overturn it because it is a precedent. It's enraging. And I can't put into words how enraging it is.
If you could say something to somebody that supports this kind of limitation, if there's one thing that you would want them to know about your experience, what is it?
It's that it is so important for women to have these resources at their disposal, not just for health reasons, not just for financial reasons, because it is a woman's choice to decide what happens to her body. It's not killing babies. At that point, it's not even a fetus. It's an embryo is a collection of cells, and that is it. And to think in that mentality, it's asinine. And why do you care? Why do you care what other people are doing? It goes in the same hand to me as LGBTQ plus rights. Why do you care? It doesn't affect you. It in no way touches your life. So why is this something that you feel so deeply about? I want to better understand their point of view so that maybe I can help them see where I'm coming from as well. And whenever I talk to other people about this subject who don't agree, it's hard to not get emotional and irate with them. But at the same time, I try to calmly explain to them how important this is for women's health care and for women's rights. I do have a friend who lives in Texas who is a woman, mind you, who said to me she wishes people would read because it's not that overturning Roe v. Wade is a big deal because it's just giving the states the right to decide what's best for them. And if you don't like it, you can move. And that's whenever I reiterated the point about not having the financial resources to move. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of women who are getting pregnant and are not financially stable enough to support a child, they can't move. This isn't about, well, what about adoption? Because I've heard that argument as well. It's next to impossible to adopt a baby at this point in this country without spending at least 30 grand or more. So what happens to these children? They go into a terrible foster system. There's so much more I want to say. It's hard to put into words.
It can feel really doom and gloom, right? Like this is a extremely difficult time for our country. Like
Sorry.
no, you're okay. I'm surprised. I'm surprised my daughter hasn't run downstairs to say hi to me yet. I'm gonna be honest, and that's okay. It can this can feel super doom and gloom. Like, I mean, it was completely crushing to hear that news. It's been completely crushing with all the other insane societal stuff that's been happening lately. I didn't cuss, yeah.
Right there with you.
I have a lot of, sorry. I coach a roller derby team, so I have a lot of really young ladies in my life. As a woman, what words of hope would you give them?
That we're going to continue to fight.
Sorry.
We're not going to give up.
I, I didn't think I would get emotional. I thought I'd be the ask the questions, don't worry about it. Like when you think back on this, when you're relating this story to other people, when you're trying to help other people understand, what in the long run, what is the thing that gives you the most optimism in this situation?
Just marching and seeing all those people was so powerful. It showed me that there's so many out there that are willing to stand up to this injustice, because it is in fact an injustice to women. That gives me hope, and I hope that seeing that gives other women hope as well.
That's awesome. Like it's so hard to maintain that. We see what's going on around us, but that's why we think that these conversations are so important and can be so powerful. Like we just want to hear as many of them as we can. Hopefully I don't cry through every single one of them. But
good luck.
I know I'm gonna that I can almost guarantee that that's a failure.
I don't envy you there.
Heather, I thank you so much for your time. Like we really appreciate it. Like we just hope that through your story other people can feel what you feel and hope the way you hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I we are hoping to just be a vessel. You know what I'm saying? Like take the meme and switch it onto the men today. You're not a vessel, I am for a story. So
Wonderful.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Heather. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.